Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine.
And today we're going to be visiting one of my favorite places, I must say.
Really? So you're you're a big meat eater.
I am. I have to have meat every day, so that's why I usually go to the butcher.
All right, so vegetarians, be warned. Today's dialogue is all about eating meat and where to go to get meat. So as Marco said, that place is called the Butcher's.
So we're going to be visiting the butcher, and we're going to learn all the different types of meat you can find there.
Great. So we don't have anything to preview, but before we get started, just like to mention that you're going to hear a lot of different kinds of words, and we'll be back in a minute to talk about what they mean.
Hi, what can I get for you?
I'd like half a pound of ground beef, please.
Good choice. Our ground beef is extra lean, if you know what I mean.
Could I also have half a dozen pork chops and 2 pounds of boneless chicken breast?
No chicken breasts at the moment, but we have some nice chicken thighs.
No, that won't do. I'll take this smoked ham you have here.
Okay, is there anything else?
Is this salami and bologna you have here?
Yes, it's very fine meat. Made it myself.
Sounds good. Okay, that's it.
Wait, we have T-bone, ribeye, and sirloin steaks. They are very fresh. Just came from the slaughterhouse.
No, that's okay, really. I think that's all for today.
Okay, that'll be $34.50.
All right, we're back. So this butcher was kind of creepy in the beginning.
Very creepy in the beginning.
I think that's usually the conception that you have of butchers because they always have a knife and they're always covered in blood, but it's not human blood.
Right, like the movie Sweeney Todd. Did you see that?
Yeah, like Sweeney Todd.
Butcher of Fleet Street.
But we actually took a look at a lot of different types of meat that the woman was ordering. So why don't we take a look at these now in Language Takeaway?
Language takeaway.
Okay, so the first is a classic cut. This is something that we had at my house about once a week growing up. It's called a pork chop.
Pork chop. Mm-hmm. So a pork chop comes from the animal, the pork or pig.
Yeah, well, we actually don't say pork to mean the animal. Pork just means the kind of meat that comes from a pig. So big difference there. When we're talking about food, we say pork.
Oh, wow. And what about a pork chop? So what exactly is that?
Chop is usually just on the bone, and oftentimes it's fried. Or baked, I guess. But it's just a piece of pork on the bone, and a chop. You just imagine a knife chopping something.
All right, so a pork chop. Very good. And after pork chops, we were ordering some ground beef.
All right, so ground beef is another important one. Ground beef is beef that's been chopped up and pushed through a machine that kind of pushes it out in very, very small bits and pieces.
Okay.
There's no bones.
So ground comes from the verb to grind. Mm-hmm. So to grind up meat, to make it very, very small pieces.
Right, so if you want to make a spaghetti bolognese, the kind of beef you use is ground beef, or even hamburgers.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So ground beef, you ground up beef. What other things would you grind?
Oh, you could grind your teeth.
You can grind.
Some people do that when they're sleeping. They grind their teeth. You can grind, you have pepper grinders. You know, peppers sometimes come in balls, and you have to grind them to make them smaller and broken down.
Very good. So that's ground beef, and from the verb to grind. Now we are buying some boneless chicken breasts.
All right, so boneless, as you have guessed, means without bones. Mm-hmm. And chicken breasts are usually just a really nice, juicy, kind of tender cut of meat from the chicken, from the kind of underside of the chicken, where obviously, yeah, they have it. It's not a wing, it's not a leg, it's just a chicken breast.
All right. So boneless chicken breast. Now, usually it is boneless, right? When you buy it at the supermarket.
Yeah. Next up, we've got some classic deli counter favorites. These are our cold cuts.
All right. So cold cuts. Now, this means that they are cold.
Oh, well, yeah, they're cold. But I think cold cuts, the most important thing to remember here is that they're mostly like kinds of salami or cured meats. So these are salt cured or they're dried meats. And you usually have them on sandwiches. So like a salami sandwich.
So like cured meat, you mean that meat hasn't been cooked?
Oh, no, it's not been cooked, but it's treated in a way that allows it to last for a very long time.
All right,
so they look like long tubes of meat.
Or they look very dry. So
Look very dry, like
all
beef
right.
jerky, for example.
All right, so cured meat. Now, for example, we have salami and bologna.
Bologna.
Now, it's interesting because bologna is actually spelled Bologna. So you would say Bologna or something like that.
Well, I think it comes from the Italian Bologna.
All right.
But it's definitely a change that happened in the English language when it came over from Italy. But bologna is a kind of meat it's got a very funny looking name.
Yeah, see, you're more sophisticated than I am. That's why you know this difference.
I
between
just speak
salami.
Italian, so no.
All right, so you have salami, bologna, and
Pastrami.
What about ham? Is that considered a cold cut?
You can have ham in the cold cut section because ham sometimes comes in tubes that you slice. But ham is also just a normal kind of pork. But ham is cured,
like a smoked ham.
Exactly.
All
or
right.
smoked turkey, one of my favorites.
Very good. And now moving on from the cold cuts, we're going to concentrate on steaks.
Ooh, steaks. So there are 1,000 kinds of steaks in this world, and every city seems to have its own kind. But here we're only looking at 3, the first of which is the T-bone.
All right, the T-bone steak, I think, is one of the most popular ones.
Definitely.
It's a steak that's pretty big, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it can be.
And it has a bone inside that looks like a T.
All right, so you're saying, Marco, that the T-bone is named after the shape and the look of this steak.
Yeah, T-bone steak.
All right.
And as well as our next one is also a rib eye.
Okay, so the rib eye, I think, actually has a piece of the rib in it. So the rib is the bone, and there's a circle, which is kind of the piece of meat is sliced off the rib, and the circle is actually part of that rib. So there's a little bit of bone in it, but it's not as bony as the T-bone.
Right. So it does have one small bone that kind of looks like an eye because you can see through it. And our next steak has no bone and is the most tender and the best steak you can have, sirloin steak.
So I think the sirloin is definitely the most expensive if you're in a restaurant. Definitely the most tender, I think, of all those
Delicious.
kind of cuts.
And usually you can have like a big sirloin steak, like a half a kilo, like a 400-gram sirloin steak.
I had a friend who ate a full kilo
Really?
sirloin steak.
Wow. Is it a competition or?
No, there's a kind of steak called la bistecca alla Fiorentina in Italy. It's the Florentine beef steak, and it can be about a kilo of meat.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet you can't even move after that.
No, you fall asleep with your head in your soup on the table.
All right, so that's all the meat-related words that we have for you today. So why don't we move on now to Fluency Builder, where we're going to take a look at some of the phrases in this dialogue.
Fluency Builder.
We're going to look at the phrases, if you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean. Now, I love this phrase, if you know what I mean.
I do know what you mean.
Well, it's
I
weird.
like it too.
So you can use it for sarcasm,
Yeah.
right? Or you can use it to kind of insinuate something, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So here's what you're saying. You're saying there's a double meaning in what I want to say. So there's 2 things I could say, and I'm not going to say it outright, but this thing that we can't really say.
So, for example, we can say,
She likes to go out, if you know what I mean.
all right, so you're insinuating that not only does she like to go out, but maybe
Maybe she goes out a lot.
a lot, or maybe she gets drunk or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a double meaning, but you're trying to be subtle.
Yeah, but it's not so subtle because you're actually saying, like, this is not what I mean. Or, she's eating for 2, if you know what I mean.
Ah, there we go. So you're insinuating that, well, you're not really insinuating, you're telling me that.
She's pregnant.
pregnant.
Eating for 2 is a common idiom in English that means that a woman, is going to have a baby. So here I'm saying, hey, do you know this idiom? She's eating for two, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Wink, wink, wink.
Wink, wink. So now, why don't we take a look at some other examples of how we could use if you know what I mean in different circumstances when you're trying to insinuate something.
Example 1.
She's eating for two now, if you know what I mean.
Example 2.
Tim hit a home run today, if you know what I mean.
Example 3.
Jim and Laura are going their separate ways, if you know what I mean.
All right, we're back. So now that that's clear, why don't we move on to our next phrase?
So this one is a counting phrase, and for those of you who have heard the word dozen before, it might not be so new. The phrase is half a dozen.
Half a dozen. So that means half of 12.
12. So a dozen is 12. And I'm not really sure when this started being used in English, but a dozen is 12. And half a dozen is then 6.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's another phrase or another saying that's very common, a dime a dozen.
He's a dime a dozen.
Mm-hmm. So that means you can get 12 of the same type of guys for 10 cents.
Right. So they're easy to find.
They're easy to find.
Yeah.
The dime a dozen. All right, very good. And moving on to our last one. When they were talking, they said something about the meat being lean, extra lean.
Okay, lean, this does not mean lean on a door.
Right.
This is not like resting on something. This is actually a kind of way to describe food.
Mm-hmm.
And so food is lean if it's not got much fat. It's not fatty.
Okay, so if it's lean, it doesn't have much fat.
Exactly. So I prefer to eat lean meats. So I often eat birds and poultry. So chicken, I like it pretty lean. And if it's got fat on it, I'll cut the fat off.
Oh, okay, like the skin. Mm-hmm. The skin is fat, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you can have lean beef. It doesn't have much fat around it.
Yeah, and in America, actually, on the packages at the supermarket, it often says the percentage of meat that you have. So it's 95% lean or 98% lean.
So that means you have 3% fat in there.
Exactly.
Or 2.
Or 2%.
My math skills are amazing. All right, so now that we've finished with all of these words on Fluency Builder, let's take a look at our dialogue for the last time.
Hi, what can I get for you?
I'd like half a pound of ground beef, please.
Good choice. Our ground beef is extra lean, if you know what I mean.
Could I also have half a dozen pork chops and 2 pounds of boneless chicken breast?
No chicken breasts at the moment, but we have some nice chicken thighs.
No, that won't do. I'll take this smoked ham you have here.
Okay, is there anything else?
Is this salami and bologna you have here?
Yes, it's very fine meat. Made it myself.
Sounds good. Okay, that's it.
Wait, we have T-bone, ribeye, and sirloin steaks. They are very fresh. Just came from the slaughterhouse.
No, that's okay, really. I think that's all for today.
Okay, that'll be $34.50.
All right, we're back. So, Catherine, are you a big beef or meat eater?
Definitely am. It helps that my partner in crime is from Kansas City, and they have among the best steaks in our entire country in Kansas City. Yeah.
Wow. I actually miss, there was, back in California, we had the $6 burger from Carl's Jr. It was just basically beef, bacon, cheese. It was just like this huge burger with full of meat and obviously a lot of calories.
Oh, yeah.
But it was delicious. In Ecuador, we are very used to having some meat product every day with our food.
Yeah, well, it's the same in the Midwest, actually, from where we're from. It's the same in the Midwest because people in the Midwest generally think that if you're not eating meat, then what are you eating? Bread?
Right.
Corn?
Yeah.
So meat is considered a healthy part of the day, and you definitely eat it with your meals.
Yeah, and I'm sure our vegetarian listeners might not appreciate this, but it's just kind of different diets. Some people eat, for example, rice every day. So where in other countries you wouldn't really have rice every day. Or for example, when I was in Chile, I had a lot of potatoes.
Really?
A lot of potato.
Have you ever had an Argentine steak? I hear they have the best beef in the world.
They are not only delicious, but they are very inexpensive, and it's amazing. You can have a complete steak buffet for like, I don't know, I can't even remember, but it was just, I sat there for 3 hours and couldn't move and kept eating.
Yeah, is it true you can eat it with a spoon? It's so soft?
Some of the meat is very, very tender, and not if it's grilled, you can't really do that, but in other preparations, it's almost like that.
With a nice butter sauce and some herbs.
All right, so
Making me hungry.
I know, you've made me hungry. I think we're going to take off and have some a burger or something right now. All right, so if you have any questions, any comments, please come to our website at englishpod.com, and we're there to answer any doubts.
And we'd love to know what your favorite foods are, meat or otherwise, so post something on our website. Hope
All
to
right.
see you there soon.
Bye.
Bye.
The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. Beef that has been put through a grinder.
Ground beef.
A type of meat from a large bird, similar to chicken.
Turkey.
Having a low fat content.
Lean.
Used to express the listener is aware of something that is assumed to be known.
If you know what I mean.
A type of small sausage.
Hot dog.
A cut of pork in a individual size.
Pork chop.
A type of knife a butcher uses.
Cleaver.
With the bones removed.
Boneless.
The table that a butcher works on.
Chopping block.
The meaty breast portion of a chicken.
Chicken breast.
The waxy paper a butcher uses to wrap meat in.
Butcher paper.
The upper leg portion of meat on a chicken.
Chicken thigh.
A ham which has been seasoned with smoke.
Smoked ham.
Cold cooked meat used for sandwiches.
Cold cuts.
Spicy dry sausage.
Salami.
A thick piece of beef with a T-shaped bone in it.
T-bone.
A tender cut of beef from the outer side of the rib.
Rib eye.
A piece of beef from the lower back of the cow.
Sirloin.
A slice of beef.
Steak.
The place where animals are killed for their meat.
Slaughterhouse.
Wide sausage that is sliced.
Bologna.
Let's try that faster. The meaty breast portion of a chicken.
Chicken breast.
Spicy dry sausage.
Salami.
Used to express the listener is aware of something that is assumed to be known.
If you know what I mean.
A type of small sausage.
Hot dog.
A ham which has been seasoned with smoke.
Smoked ham.
Wide sausage that is sliced.
Bologna.
Having a low fat content.
Lean.
Cold cooked meat used for sandwiches.
Cold cuts.
A slice of beef.
Steak.
The upper leg portion of meat on a chicken.
Chicken thigh.
A cut of pork in a individual size.
Pork chop.
A thick piece of beef with a T-shaped bone in it.
T-bone.
The place where animals are killed for their meat.
Slaughterhouse.
Beef that has been put through a grinder.
Ground beef.
A type of knife a butcher uses.
Cleaver.
A type of meat from a large bird, similar to chicken.
Turkey.
With the bones removed.
Boneless.
A tender cut of beef from the outer side of the rib.
Rib eye.
A piece of beef from the lower back of the cow.
Sirloin.
The waxy paper a butcher uses to wrap meat in.
Butcher paper.
The table that a butcher works on.
Chopping block.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Ground beef. You should be sure that ground beef is cooked well. Otherwise, you can get sick. Ground beef. Today's special is ground beef at only 99 cents a pound while supplies last. Ground beef. These Italian meatballs are made from ground beef, salt, pepper, and a pinch of garlic powder. Lean. Tommy is on a diet, so he only eats extra lean meat. Lean. Look at that girl over there. She is so lean. I don't think there is an ounce of fat on her body. Lean. We want to make the company leaner and more responsive to the demands of the market. If you know what I mean. This beef is so fresh, I think I can still hear it mooing, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. I know what you mean. The internet is so slow, I'm not sure I'm even connected. If you know what I mean. Boy, John's wife is really mad at him. I guess he's really in the doghouse, if you know what I mean. Cold cuts. Are we all prepared for the picnic? Let's see here. We have bread, cold cuts, mustard, silverware, plates. Cold cuts. Honey, don't forget to buy the cold cuts on your way home. Buy some sliced roast turkey and whatever else you want. Cold cuts. I would prefer a bowl of steaming noodles rather than some stale bread and cold cuts. Steak. Before I got this great job, I was so poor, but now it's steak for dinner every night. Steak. I can't finish this whole steak. It's bigger than my head. Steak. You can choose how long your steak is cooked. Rare steak often still has blood in it, while well done is almost entirely burnt.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we're talking about money issues.
That's right. So there are some really interesting phrases, and we're going to learn a little bit about how money and Social Security works in the United States. But before we get into that, why don't we look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
So we're talking about retirement, and that means we're going to talk about when you stop working when you're 63 or 65. How do you save money for that? And the phrase we've got here is retirement plan.
All right, so a retirement plan. So as you say, that's some money that you have for when you retire, when you're 65, when you're too old maybe to work.
Exactly, and there are many different kinds. We're going to hear about one that's called a 401k, but we'll talk about that in a minute. First, let's listen to today's dialogue.
Well, that was an interesting documentary.
For sure. I didn't really understand some of the technical jargon they used in the film when they talked about Social Security in the US.
Like what?
Well, they mentioned how people put away money in something called a 401k.
Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but a 401k is a type of retirement plan that allows employees to save and invest for their own retirement. Through a 401k, you can authorize your employer to deduct a certain amount of money from your paycheck and invest it in the 401k plan. Everyone tries to contribute as much as possible so that when you retire, you can rest peacefully on your nest egg.
That's interesting and logical, I guess. In my country, we also have to contribute to a government-run retirement fund, but most people don't really trust it, so they just invest in properties or things like that.
That seems a bit unstable, don't you think?
Yeah, but corrupt governments in the past have created distrust among banks and financial institutions, so now people prefer to have money hidden in a jar or a piggy bank.
I've been thinking of doing that lately. I don't want some banker to run off with my money.
All right, we're back from today's dialogue. Now, some really interesting words and phrases there. And as you said, this 401k, what is a 401k?
Well, I'm not sure about the details, honestly, but the 401k plan is a plan for workers, people who are young and working, to invest in their retirement. And so it's a way to save money.
So every day they put a little bit of money towards this plan. And in the end, when they retire, they will have a certain amount of money that they can use throughout their seniorhood.
Exactly. And so before we have that, we have this conversation which starts with a documentary. So they're learning about 401ks. And in this case, the person says that they didn't understand a lot because there was a lot of technical jargon.
All right. So this word jargon, it's very similar to slang, right?
Exactly. And it's a special kind of talking or special words related to a certain topic.
Or a certain industry. For example, you hear a lot of business jargon, right?
Or marketing jargon.
Yeah, when people start talking about, POPs and POS and like all that jargon.
I lost you. Sorry. No, I don't get
right.
that. Well, jargon then is special language for a certain industry or field. And in this case, we're learning about financial jargon and investment jargon. So we're talking about 401ks and funds and all that stuff. So,
okay, very good. And now when they were talking about the 401k, he explained how they deduct money to put into this plan.
Well, the question is who deducts money and where does it all go? And so to deduct means to take away, and this means in a 401k plan, the government will deduct money from your paycheck and put it into a special savings plan for you that you can access when you're retired.
Okay, so to deduct means to take away, to take out, right?
Exactly. So subtract, deduct, take away, take out.
Very good. All right. And as they kept talking about money issues, the woman said that people in her country distrust banks and financial institutions.
Okay, so you might recognize a word there, distrust, trust. They have the same root. And so to trust someone is to believe in them and to believe what they say. But to distrust means to think what they're saying is a lie.
Okay, so you don't really believe that person.
No, so if someone says, trust me, I will take your money and I won't spend it. You say, I distrust this person. That means I don't trust.
Right, very good. And well, why do they distrust these institutions? Because the government is a bit corrupt.
Okay, so you hear this word a lot in the news or in the newspaper. You can have a corrupt government or a corrupt politician. That means that the government does things but says it doesn't and maybe is dishonest. It's distrustful.
Right, so for example, a corrupt politician will support a law that's not really good, but maybe he's being paid by somebody else.
Or a corrupt politician will take money from the government institutions to use for himself and not for the country or the people.
That's right.
Corrupt government then.
Okay, very good. All right, so why don't we listen to our dialogue again, and we'll be back soon with Fluency Builder.
Well, that was an interesting documentary.
For sure. I didn't really understand some of the technical jargon they used in the film when they talked about Social Security in the US.
Like what?
Well, they mentioned how people put away money in something called a 401k.
Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but a 401k is a type of retirement plan that allows employees to save and invest for their own retirement. Through a 401k, you can authorize your employer to deduct a certain amount of money from your paycheck and invest it in the 401k plan. Everyone tries to contribute as much as possible so that when you retire, you can rest peacefully on your nest egg.
That's interesting and logical, I guess. In my country, we also have to contribute to a government-run retirement fund, but most people don't really trust it, so they just invest in properties or things like that.
That seems a bit unstable, don't you think?
Yeah, but corrupt governments in the past have created distrust among banks and financial institutions, so now people prefer to have money hidden in a jar or a piggy bank.
I've been thinking of doing that lately. I don't want some banker to run off with my money.
All right, we're back. So on Fluency Builder, we're going to look at 3 phrases. So let's look at them now.
Fluency Builder.
Okay, this first phrase is what the entire dialogue is about. It's about putting away money. So to put it away.
Okay, so to put money away, that's an equivalent of saving, right?
Exactly, to save. So in this case, to put away is a fixed phrase, these words that go together very often, and it means to save. So you could say, oh yeah, last year I put away $1,000.
Okay, so you saved $1,000.
Exactly.
Very good. And well, why are we putting all this money away? We're trying to build a nest egg.
Now this is a funny phrase.
That is funny.
A nest is a home for a bird. You know, it's made of sticks and twigs and leaves.
Right.
And a nest egg then has to do with a bird's
Eggs in the nest.
Well, I don't know where it comes from, but it does mean money that you've saved up for some date in the future. So you could say, I'm trying to grow a nest egg. I'm trying to build a nest egg so that in 10 years I can buy a house.
Okay. So it's not only for retirement. You can build a nest egg to possibly invest it in the future into buying a house.
Exactly. It's your savings that you don't touch. So I could say, I'm going to kill you. You spent the nest egg.
All right.
That's not for spending. It's for saving.
All right. And well, where can you save money for your nest egg? It's very popular to put it in a piggy bank.
Well, maybe if you're 5 years old, but I don't know if I'd put a lot of money in a piggy bank.
Right.
Piggy bank is usually a ceramic pig,
Right.
and it's got a hole in the top and you can put coins in
Right,
the top.
right.
And so we give these to children to teach them how to save. So
to
they can
save
put
money.
1 penny in every day.
And then when they need the money or they want to spend it, they break the piggy bank.
Exactly. You have to throw it on the ground. And it's sad because you realize, oh, now I don't have my pig anymore. Lost my nest egg.
All right. So why don't we listen to this dialogue again? Let's keep a lookout for all these words and phrases, and we'll be back shortly.
Well, that was an interesting documentary.
For sure. I didn't really understand some of the technical jargon they used in the film when they talked about Social Security in the US.
Like what?
Well, they mentioned how people put away money in something called a 401k.
Yeah, I know it sounds weird, but a 401k is a type of retirement plan that allows employees to save and invest for their own retirement. Through a 401k, you can authorize your employer to deduct a certain amount of money from your paycheck and invest it in the 401k plan. Everyone tries to contribute as much as possible so that when you retire, you can rest peacefully on your nest egg.
That's interesting and logical, I guess. In my country, we also have to contribute to a government-run retirement fund, but most people don't really trust it, so they just invest in properties or things like that.
That seems a bit unstable, don't you think?
Yeah, but corrupt governments in the past have created distrust among banks and financial institutions, so now people prefer to have money hidden in a jar or a piggy bank.
I've been thinking of doing that lately. I don't want some banker to run off with my money.
All right, we're back. So this whole savings thing, are you good at saving? Do you have your nest egg planned out for your retirement?
Nest egg, no, but I'm a compulsive saver.
Really?
I like to save a lot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because you never know when you're going to need money. And I think once you get a kind of an adult job, the 9-to-5 job,
Right.
It's important to spend as little as possible so that you can create a nest egg or some kind of savings account for the future, because it'd be nice to have a car or a house someday.
Right. And also, as you say, unexpected things happen. So something may happen. Maybe you break your arm and you don't have any savings or maybe no insurance. So at least you have some money stashed away where you can use it.
Exactly. And I know that in America right now in the news, the credit crisis is very popular to talk about. And so part of this economic situation is that people owe more money than they have. That means they've spent more money than they own. And so they don't have any savings. And that really scares me. So I think it's a really smart idea to start investing as soon as you can.
Very good. All right. Wise financial advice from EnglishPod.com.
Thank you.
All right. So if you have any questions, any doubts, or any more financial questions, please come to EnglishPod.com and we'll see you guys there.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
Spend money on something in order to get back more. Invest. A U.S. government program to protect certain groups. Social Security.
Let's try that faster.
Spend money on something in order to get back more. Invest. A U.S. government program to protect certain groups. Social Security.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Social Security. Excuse me, sir. Please fill in your Social Security number in these blanks. Social Security. Throughout a worker's career, the Social Security Administration keeps track of his or her earnings. Social Security. If a worker covered by Social Security dies, a surviving spouse can receive survivor's benefits. Invest. I was hoping to get my money invested in something safe. Invest. He was in such a hurry to get that money invested that he didn't realize his decision was horrible. Invest. How do you think I should get this money invested? Social Security. Peter was deducted half a month's salary when he became ill. Social Security. Some banks will deduct a monthly fee from your account. Social Security. The referee deducted 3 points from the opposite team. Invest. The thief ran off with over $500,000. Invest. A dog came into my house and ran off with my shoe. Invest. The police chased the criminal through the neighborhood, but he managed to run off into the forest. Social Security. I really don't understand some of the business jargon that is used in my office. Social Security. My brother is really into computers and knows all the computer jargon used in the cyber world. Social Security. I get lost in marketing meetings when they start using jargon such as POP or POS.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we have a very scary story.
Spooky. We're actually bringing you the first of our advanced media lessons, and what better way to start it with than a scary story for Halloween?
Than with.
So what better way to start this advanced media lesson than with a scary story?
Right, so Halloween is coming up, and advanced media usually features a news story or some kind of story that we can then kind of break down and talk about, just have a conversation about, because you're advanced level learners and you want to have fun with English. So where is today's spooky story set, Marco?
Well, it starts out with a guy who remembers something very scary that happened to him when he was a kid.
Okay, and so one of the main characters in today's story is his great aunt.
That's right, his great aunt. And so basically this is a family member, but it's your father's aunt, right?
Right. Your grandmother or your grandfather's sister.
Right.
All right, so your aunt or your aunt is your parent's sibling. But in this case, we're talking about one generation older than that. So you could say great aunt, great uncle, great grandfather, great grandmother. It's like one step back.
Right.
So this is usually a very old person, and the great aunt is definitely an important character in today's story.
Exactly. So let's not keep you in suspense any longer. Why don't we listen to this scary story, and we'll be right back to talk about it.
Oh
Oh no, the lights went out. Honey, can you light a candle?
Sure. What do we do now?
Well, we can just talk. You know, like we used to.
I know. I'll tell you a scary story. It happened to me and my dad when I was a teenager. I was living with my father at the time when he received a phone call.
Hello. Yes, this is him. I see. Sorry to hear that. Okay, no problem. I'll be there shortly. Pack some clothes, Tony. My great aunt is very ill and no one in the family wants to take care of her. We're going to stay at her house for a few days.
Aunt? What aunt? I never knew you had a great aunt.
Well, the family doesn't talk about her, or get near her for that matter.
Why is that?
Come on, we have to go.
So we arrived at this old house on the outskirts of our town. There was almost no one around and the house had an eerie look to it. Once inside the house, we walked to her room and I was surprised to find my dad's great aunt in a wheelchair, yelling at someone, but we were alone in the room.
Hi, Aunt Ursula. This is my son, Tony.
Why have you come? Why are you here? Don't you know it isn't safe? My time is near. He's coming for me.
Who is coming for you?
The Prince of Darkness, the Lord of the Underworld, the Tempter, the Old Serpent.
Come on, Aunt Ursula, let's lay you down. You need to get some rest. Tony, help me lay her down.
That night, we slept in one of the 12 rooms of that big old mansion. The trees outside seemed to come alive and their shadows formed ghoulish shapes on my bed. All of a sudden, we heard screaming.
Dad! Something is attacking Aunt Ursula!
Go back to the underworld, you dreamer! I shall be judged before you can take me!
The door is jammed. Stand back! Aunt Ursula, where are you?
Over here!
And as we approached her, she was lying on the floor with her hands and feet open like the Vitruvian Man, breathing heavily with bloody marks and scratches on her arms, legs, and face. Remember how I mentioned that she was in a wheelchair? My aunt had been paralyzed from the neck down for just over a year. After this incident, strange things would happen in the house, and my aunt would yell and scream, according to her, warding off the evil that had come to get her. As the days passed, she became very weak and eventually was unable to talk. My dad had to work during the day, so I was left to care for her. When she lost her voice and laid on her deathbed, I would hear her breathe in and out. Until finally one day she breathed in and never exhaled. That night, I felt relieved that it was finally over, but it wasn't. I was so terrified of what I was hearing that I didn't sleep all night. The following morning, I went to the bathroom, expecting to find a mess and everything torn up, but I found everything exactly as it was before. The movers came that same day, and as we were cleaning out her drawers and personal items, we found strange notebooks with names and amounts of money written next to them. We found pictures with people's faces sewn with black or red string. And you want to know what the strangest thing was? There was a small doll filled with dead ants, with a strand of hair tied around its waist. And on the doll's face, there was a picture of me with the numbers 311009. You know what date it is today? October 31st, 2009. All right, we're back. So, what you think? Pretty scary?
I got goosebumps. It's a little spooky.
A little
yeah.
scary. Now, what's interesting about this story? It's based on a true story, so that makes it even scarier.
No.
Yeah.
Dare I ask? Did this happen to you?
No, I'm not old enough. But this actually happened to a family member of mine, and that's why I know this story. So it was kind of told to me when I was a bit younger, and I remembered it. And well, Halloween is a great time to remember these things.
And the first time you heard it, it scared the crap out of you, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually, the first time I heard it, we were on an airplane, like on October 31st.
Oh wow!
So it was pretty scary.
Well, we've got a lot of really interesting stuff here. We're not going to dwell too long on the grammar or the vocabulary because we assume that most of you have understood this, but there are a couple of things that can be really difficult even for English speakers. So the first one is this phrase, my time is near.
My time is near. So what does that mean exactly?
Well, my time is near. My end is coming. It means I'm very old and I'm probably going to die soon. So my time, his time, that's when you die.
Okay, so it's always used in reference to death, right?
In this case, yeah. So it's used in reference to death. And in this case, you have the aunt who's talking about herself, but you could also say his time is coming. We should visit him in the hospital. So it's a kind of softer way of saying that someone is going to die soon.
Right. Okay, so my time is near or his time is near. All right. And then something really interesting in this story as well. She had many different names that she called the devil. So she didn't directly say the devil. She said the Prince of Darkness.
Prince of Darkness, Lord of the Underworld, the Tempter.
The Tempter and the Old Serpent. So these are actually different ways that historically have been used to describe the devil, right?
That's right. And a lot of them are biblical, like the Old Serpent, back in the first pages of the Bible when the serpent tempts Eve, that's the devil. And so we hear a lot of these, especially on Halloween. These are great words to use to kind of diversify and not say devil, devil, devil.
Right. Okay. So apart from those synonyms for the devil, she also used an interesting phrase towards the end when she said, I shall be judged before you can take me.
So, judged, to judge, this is to see if something is right or wrong. But in this case, we talk about judgment at the end of a person's life. So that means when you go to the gates of heaven and there's St. Peter and he has a list of the good and the bad and he says yes or no.
Right.
And then if you're a no, you get sent down to hell. If you're a yes, you go to heaven.
Right.
So she says, I shall be judged. This means I want my day in court. I want to have my actions analyzed by St. Peter, not by you.
Right, exactly. So actually this makes reference to a lot of beliefs in Christianity, right? So it's just another aspect of the story, but of course, other religions probably don't have the same things such as like the gates of heaven and St. Peter.
Right, the system of
judgment. All right. So what did you think of the story? Did you like it?
I really liked it. I thought it was really spooky, and I thought that it built up well. But I also like the imagery. We talked about, or we haven't talked about this yet. But he describes his great aunt. The character describes his great aunt as being spread out like the Vitruvian man. So you have this image of her arms spread out and her legs spread out. You know that picture that Da Vinci did of a human being, and it's like an anatomy, and it's in a circle, and you can see the legs and the arms. That's just so really like a powerful visual image.
Yeah, you can imagine her laying on the bed in this position, right? Yeah, it is pretty scary. What about you? Have you ever had any close encounters with the supernatural or ghosts or goblins or something like this?
No, personally, I've never had any experiences like that, and I tend to not believe those stories, but maybe if this had happened to someone I knew, I'd be a little bit more skeptical or less skeptical. But
what about like when they have those documentaries or those recordings of strange voices or appearances, like these old castles in England or stuff like that? What do you think?
I love those shows. I just watched one, and it was about a haunted house. There was a woman who used a Ouija board, and it let a demon out, and the demon possessed the girl, and they called in a priest, and the priest had to like exorcise the demon from the little girl, and the house was haunted, and it was hurting people, and it was like possessing people.
Wow, it sounds like a movie.
Yeah, it does, but it was like a TV show on Discovery Channel, and it was really, really fun. But like, I don't actually believe that like a spirit could push someone down the stairs. I think that you trip and then you attribute it to a spirit. But
right. What about the Ouija board? That's an interesting tool that many people say opens up, like portals and dimensions towards hell, or spirits can come out and stuff like that.
Right. Well, for those of you who don't know, the Ouija board is a board, like a piece of cardboard that has letters on it, letters and numbers. And so you have this glass that you hold. And once the spirit comes, it guides the glass to point out to names or places, and you spell them. And they're really popular with like 13-year-old girls who have these slumber parties, and they use it. And we always say, who is she gonna date? And then it moves. But I believe in the power of the human mind. So I think a lot of times, even if we're not aware of it, we're the ones, manipulating this
or
glass.
Believing what we want to believe.
Yeah. But what about you? Are you superstitious? Do you believe in ghosts?
I'm not superstitious. I don't know what to think about ghosts because I've actually had a couple of very strange encounters with the supernatural, but I really wouldn't say, oh yeah, I believe in ghosts, or I believe they're spirits that haven't been put to rest, or they have unfinished business, like in Casper or something like that.
Yeah.
But once we were having dinner with my family and in the house where we used to live, and it was a very old house, and we had a glass of water on the table, and all of a sudden it started to move and to rotate across the table, the center of the table, and we all saw it and no one was touching it. So we all were pretty confused and nervous, and then just kind of burst out in nervous laughter. And we didn't really know what to make of it, but it was very strange because it moved a good amount towards like half of the table, and it was spinning at the same time, so it was very strange.
Weird.
So things like this, and in general, Hispanic or Latin American culture they're very superstitious. They have a lot of beliefs in like magic, or some people still are reluctant to give out a picture, for example, because of something like this in the story. They say you shouldn't give out pictures to boyfriends or girlfriends or anyone, because if you break up or something is to happen, then they could do something with that picture and maybe hurt you.
Really? So this idea that you have a likeness, like a picture or a doll or something. What can you talk about that? Because I don't really know anything about it. Having that means that you're able to like do something to that very person.
Yeah, like not necessarily like a voodoo doll, right? Where you see that you can put pins in it and then it would hurt someone. But people believe that pictures, for example, they capture your image, and so if somebody has it and wants to do harm or black magic, then they can use that as an instrument to get into you.
Okay.
The same as pieces of clothing, or the same as hair, and things like this. So that's why there are the shamans, or the Indian witch doctors who do cleansing like this, and people still actually go to them. People in the city still believe in these things, and they'll go to a shaman and get themselves cleansed because they believe that their luck, they have really bad luck, or they've been very, very sick for a long time and doctors can't figure out what it is. They think it's because someone has cast a spell on them or is doing some black magic to them, and they need to get it cleansed.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's really, really common. But it's all part of the folklore and the heritage of the countries, and it's actually very, very interesting, and some things are just really out there, really weird.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it, I think, comes from indigenous beliefs mixing with Catholicism too, right?
Yeah,
because a lot of South American countries and Latin American countries are very Catholic, but they get kind of melded, these traditions, with indigenous beliefs, and then you have these crazy rituals and like...
We actually have a belief, and it's very true, that, when somebody is completely in love with this girl, and this girl is like maybe, not very nice or not very nice to that guy, but he's still completely into her. So there's this word that we say that he's been like underweared or something like that. And the reason behind this is that one of these rituals that I talked about is that the girl would make tea, right? Would take a tea pot, and in it would put her underpants, used underpants, to make the tea water, and then would serve it to the guy. So the moment that he drank it, this was like a magic potion, and then he would continuously be in love with her.
Oh.
So yeah, it's very strange.
That's gross. Do people actually do that?
No, it's not something that you do now. But it's something that people knew about that used to be done way before.
Okay, so people now, it's part of the language where you say that someone has been like
underweared or something like that.
She cast a spell on him, maybe what we would say.
So things like this that of course aren't really done anymore, but still people make reference to it because we know it from our history that it's been done before.
How cool. Well, I'm really curious to know if our users have any similar stories or have any scary stories they want to tell.
I bet they do.
I'm sure they do. And this advanced media lesson is a great place for you to do that because we expect that a lot of advanced level learners are going to be listening to it, and practicing your writing is really important. So we hope that you'll put some comments on this lesson and, of course, ask us as many questions as you want.
All right. So we'll see you guys there, and have a happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Bye.